Coming up on Network Africa, 12 people killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo from an Angola toxic mine leak. The European Union to return Johnson & Johnson vaccines made in South Africa. Plus, Zambia Parliament elects first female Speaker of the House. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where nearly 4,500 people have fallen ill in the southern region following a toxic leak from a diamond mine in neighboring Angola. Authorities say at least 12 people have also died. DR Congo says it would ask for reparations for the damage caused, but did not specify any amount. In the meantime, there has been no response so far from the mining company. Last month's leak from a reservoir containing heavy metals byproducts caused the river to turn red, killing fish, hippos and other animals. Over in Burkina Faso, several illegal miners have died after sneaking into the old pits of a gold mine. The death toll remains unclear, as police say 6 of them died because of lack of oxygen in the deep pits, but a national prosecutor says at least 8 people suffocated to death when police used tear gas against the unauthorized gold miners at Nord Gold's Bissa mine. Survivors recounting their ordeal say 7 others were injured after police fired tear gas. Officials also say the mines were vandalized and vehicles torched by the local people after the incident. Illegal mining is common in Burkina Faso, and the government has been urging the public to partner with the authorities in fighting it. The World Health Organization says 42 out of Africa's 54 countries are set to miss the goal of vaccinating the world's most vulnerable 10% against COVID-19 by the end of September. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says countries need to move forward with their plans to rapidly vaccinate the millions of people that still face a grave threat from COVID-19.
The World Health Organization said today 42 of Africa's 54 countries are set to miss the goal of vaccinating. The World Health Organization said today 42 of Africa's 54 countries are set to miss the goal of vaccinating the world's most vulnerable people, the world's most vulnerable 10% against COVID by the end of September. Almost 21 million COVID-19 vaccines arrived in Africa through the COVAX facility in August alone. This is an amount equal to the previous 4 months combined. And the with more vaccines expected from COVAX and the African Union by the end of September, WHO says there's a possibility that enough doses could be delivered to meet the 10% target then. As more doses arrive, African countries have to move forward their plans to rapidly vaccinate the millions of people that still face a grave threat from COVID-19. This was said by Dr. Moeti, WHO's regional director. Currently, 39 million people, that's around 3% of Africa's population, is fully vaccinated.
The European Union will be returning millions of South Africa-manufactured Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine doses to the continent. Now, that's according to the African Union Special Envoy, Strive Masiyiwa, who says that all the vaccines being produced in Africa will stay in Africa and be distributed to the continent, adding that the issue has been corrected, and it has been corrected in a very positive way. His comments follow criticism that vaccines were being shipped away from a continent that that has the lowest vaccination rates in the world. Less than 3% of Africa's population has been vaccinated. Well, despite COVID-19 vaccines being available to all South African adults, uptake remains low, with just about 20% of adults having received a first dose. Well, to boost the country's vaccination drive, the government has introduced a number of initiatives. Last week, we told you about the drive-through vaccination centers. Now, officials have deployed a vaccination train to inoculate those living in rural communities.
The train now standing at Platform 1 could help protect you against COVID-19. With South Africa's inoculation campaign off to a slow start, a locomotive is being deployed to administer vaccines. Last month, vaccinations were made available to all adults as the government ramps up its rollout. The train makes it possible to avoid the long queues that have since formed at vaccination centers.
We've been waiting for this moment for a very long time, especially we work in industries where, you need to be at work like all the time. So it was very crucial for me to get this vaccine.
We are basically bringing the vaccines to the people. So it cuts down on patients having to travel long distances, wait in long queues, and sometimes even be turned back because vaccines are maybe finished or they get to clinics or hospitals late.
The vaccine train is an initiative by state logistics firm Transnet. It's currently parked at Spring Station in South Africa's biggest city, Johannesburg. But in the first week of September, it departs for the rural Eastern Cape. There it will be available to villagers who often don't have access to basic health services.
It's a good initiative because it's a schlep to go and drive and vaccinate, queue first, vaccinate. So once it's closer, look, as you can see, it was very quick here. I don't think I even spent 20 minutes here. So there should be more of these.
South Africa has been battered by 3 coronavirus waves. Millions have been infected and more than 80,000 have died, by far the continent's heaviest toll. With just 14% of adults fully vaccinated, the government is now aiming for 300,000 inoculations per day. The vaccine train, it's hoped, will help keep that ambition on track.
Well, back here in Nigeria, Edo State in the southern region has taken delivery of an additional 40,000 doses of Moderna vaccines. Now, this is the second batch of Moderna vaccines. The first batch had contained 65,016 doses as the state continues its second COVID-19 vaccination phase. Residents are being urged to take advantage of this to get their vaccinations against the virus.
At the primary healthcare center at New Benin in Oedo local government area, the staff of the center are at it, vaccinating people as they come. The head of the team seems impressed with the turnout of people for the COVID-19 vaccination thus far.
I think the awareness has been on and people have been coming for the vaccination from the first day or from the flag off of the program. I would say that the turnout has been quite encouraging, but some persons are still scared to come out from their houses based on the rumors that they've heard concerning the vaccination. So when they come, we try to tell them, that as the clients, we try to tell them that the COVID vaccine is safe.
Welcome Primary Healthcare Center, Ekbabaha. It's another busy day of COVID-19 vaccination. The University of Benin Teaching Hospital is a hub for COVID-19 vaccination. The team head affirms that response has been good.
For this program, we are vaccinating those that have not had their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. These are the categories of people that will give Moderna vaccines to. They are taking their vaccine for the first time. For those that have had their first dose of vaccination, they had AstraZeneca. It started in March, then April, May, to June. So those are the categories of people that are coming for their second dose of vaccines. The turnout is actually increasing on a daily basis.
She just got her second jab.
I came here today to take my second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. And then I would like to advise everyone out there who has not taken the COVID vaccine to please do so.
The senior citizen has just taken his first jab and he has a word of advice.
I believe strongly that a whole government cannot mislead us. I'm also a Christian, and the same Bible says we should obey constituted authority. So I wouldn't know why anybody will have reason to doubt an authentic government we put in place.
3 local government areas in Benin City covered. COVID-19 vaccination is up and running. Osaze Obaze Channels Television News.
Away from COVID-19 now, a 35-year-old Zimbabwean man has been charged with fraud after trying to pass himself off as the country's vice president to receive free medical treatment. A court in the capital, Harare, held that Marlon Castillo visited 2 hospitals on several occasions last month to get treatment for his headaches, saying that he was, among other people, Vice President Constantino Chiwenga. The vice president is 65 years old. Mr. Castillo, who has not commented on the charges, was given the free treatment, while his bail application is expected to be heard. Well, Zambia now has a female Speaker of Parliament, the first of its kind in the nation. Nelly Muti is a lawyer and has become the country's first female Speaker of Parliament. She will be responsible for the orderly conduct of debate as well as disciplining lawmakers. She was elected unopposed by the new set of MPs and will be deputized by Attractor Chisanga and Frank Moyo. President Hakainde Hichilema, expressing his congratulations to her, says he is confident of her competence in handling the mammoth task ahead. A joint report by Euromed Human Rights Monitor and Impact International is accusing the UAE authorities of human rights violation against African migrants arrested, imprisoned and deported despite their legal status. Now, this report is followed by an appeal from Nigerian migrants working legally in the country and are now asking the UAE government to remove restrictions to their work permit, as they do not wish to be punished for the criminal acts of a few. Earlier this year, videos online showed the aftermath of a violent causes-related altercation linked to Nigerians, an incident many of them believe has now led to work restrictions. Here's more from our correspondent, Mayowa Adegoke.
Been over 2 months since reports of banned work permits for Nigerians in the UAE first surfaced. In that time, hundreds of legitimate workers have lost jobs or been unable to secure new employment. The effect for most has been devastating.
It has not been easy at all. I have been feeding from hand to mouth. Even as I speak, in the next 2-3 days now, the rent here will expire. I don't even know how I'm going to pay the owner.
We are starving here. We are facing a lot of strains. A lot of people, they are being frustrated. Even I, including me, I'm being frustrated. Every day being at home without any income. So it's kind of crazy.
I never had any issue with my company, even not single warning letter in my company.
But UAE's ambassador in Nigeria says there is no official ban on Nigerians.
From what I believe as an official position from the UAE is a very welcoming country. We have no discrimination against any nationality.
His words bring some relief, but the day-to-day realities facing some Nigerians remain challenging.
So I'm begging them for them to leave the ban so that I can continue my job, so that in the nearest future, one will not become a destitute or nuisance in the land of the. So they should just pity we the innocent one.
Officials at the Nigerian embassy in the UAE say they're doing everything in their part to solve the issue. But how soon this unofficial ban is lifted depends on how much goodwill the UAE government wishes to extend to its Nigerian residents, many of whom contribute to its pool of human resources. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Mayowa Adegoke for Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the program. Our Africa Tech segment discusses the rise and importance of clean technology. Please stay with us for more details. Welcome back to the program. Amid the violence in Libya and troubles facing many migrants, some have found a rare haven in the country. Halima William and her husband, Mark, have been trying to travel from Nigeria to Europe, but in Libya they encountered brutality until they were able to escape to a rare safe haven in Libya.
Halima William and her husband, Mark, have found a rare place of refuge in Libya, but their journey from Nigeria to this point has been brutal. Halima crossed the desert in 2018, dreaming of reaching Europe and a better life. But in the Libyan town of Bani Walid, she was forced into prostitution. Now she just wants to get out of Libya.
It's not safe. I just want to move forward because I don't like Libya is not good. It's not really good. It's not safe. You can't walk anyhow. You can't go out anyhow. Kidnapping, you know, it's not safe. Raping. Libya is not safe, so that is why I want to move forward, and I know God is going to help me.
She managed to escape and found her way to a safe house, only to find her husband was already there. Mark had left Nigeria first in 2016. Upon arrival, he was detained by armed men.
Before I now went out, I spent 3 months in prison, and I was injured. They beat me a lot, used electric to shock me, used wood to beat us, so we should control money from our country. So I used almost 1.5 million to release myself from the prison before I now get out from the prison. Before I now come to safe house here. I've been in safe house here for the past 3 years through the help of UN and IOM.
Their stories show the risks facing every growing number of migrants seeking safety and prosperity in Europe. Since Muammar Gaddafi was toppled in 2011, much of Libya has been dominated by armed groups who battle for control of territory and economic assets, including the illegal trafficking of migrants. Now, Halima and Mark have found shelter in the house founded by Al Hussein bin Ghassa.
We have done this because this is a city of generosity. Libyans in general are very generous people, and we believe it's our duty to do this work.
The safe house provides food and medical care and is funded by donations from the townspeople and local businesses. It currently houses 12 migrants, most of whom are from sub-Saharan Africa, and is also supported by the United Nations and medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières. But Halima and Mark hope their stay will be only temporary. They want to head for Italy, leaving behind the brutality they face in a country marred by a decade of chaos and violence.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. Statistics from the World Health Organization states that every year, close to 4 million people die prematurely because they do not have access to clean cooking fuels. But to solve this problem and more like this, we've seen a rise in clean technology startups searching for cleaner and sustainable ways to produce and store renewable energy. Clean tech companies leverage technology in order to solve the world's energy problems. The clean tech industry has room not just for startups, but corporates alike, as innovations with low emissions and technology are leveraged upon to properly utilize renewable energy sources. Well, joining us now for more on this is Nneka Uke, the Executive Secretary of Innovation Support Network, joins us to discuss the growth of clean tech startups. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Tech.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's begin with, what clean technology is. What does it entail?
Okay, clean technology is leveraging technology and innovation to address current climate issues, which can come up in everyday experiences such as you mentioned, cooking, processes and processing for industrial use, as well as community and daily activities. We've seen that there is currently a lot of global focus on climate issues, and one of the fastest ways to address issues, societal and development issues, is to leverage technology, and that's exactly what clean technology is, using technology to address climate and sustainability issues.
So is there like a standout factor? What can you say, makes clean tech startups different from other technological startups?
Well, by definition, clean tech startups are solving development and societal issues. There is a global crisis right now regarding the climate situation. A recent IPCC study that was released in August of 2021, which was just last month, identified that the targets that had been placed for that the world is not warmed by 1.5 degrees centigrade within the next few years needs to be shifted from 2050 to 2040, right? So there is an immediate crisis regarding the climate, and we need to leverage as many technologies as possible to help us change our behaviors as individuals, as communities, as businesses, as governments, to be able to help us meet and address the global crisis situation within our own context. So within our own context, we have things like cooking fuels, fossil fuels, the processing of fossil fuels, as well as our production processes, all need to be changed and adopted so that we are able to develop cleaner and more sustainable processes that are more sustainable and are better for the planet, for profit, and also for our people.
Well, speaking in practical terms now, how can individuals like you and I, how can we leverage technology and solve problems, even as we search for a cleaner and sustainable way to produce and store renewable energy?
Well, there are already certain solutions that currently exist. We have renewable energy solutions, we have solar solutions. There are policies that are helping to guide, as well as private sector and corporate activities that are helping to guide behaviors towards recycling. And we're working with several organizations and startups to be able to adopt circular economy thinking, which ensures that outputs that are currently considered as waste products can actually be reprocessed into input products. That way there's less pressure on the demand for natural resources, and then there's better use for what is currently considered as waste, which means that there's going to be less landfill and better energy being drawn out of these current waste products, which can be reutilized into creating new products, creating energy sources to meet the energy demands of our people, as well as, basically ensuring that we're being more ecologically and climate conscious as individuals, communities, and businesses.
All right then, Nneka, okay, thank you so much for speaking to us on Africa Tech.
Thank you very much.
As we end the program today, a renowned Chadian visual artist is using an unusual material to create art. 38-year-old Gudimbaye is giving second life to handgun rounds, 50 caliber shells, nearly all of the bullets, changing them to artistry. Take a look.
As the sun beats down over Chad's capital, visual artist Apollinary Gudimbaye sits on the concrete surrounded by boxes of spent ammunition that he hopes to give new life, not as weapons of war, but as instruments of peace. Bound together by a wide range of recycled material, Gudimbaye's works have received numerous accolades and been mainstays in galleries throughout the region and abroad.
I try to work with spent shells and other war materials to give a rebirth. a metaphor of what shells can do. Instead of war and killing, I use the same shells that have bereaved women to talk about peace as a sign of remission.
A tireless collector of miscellaneous objects, Gwidambaye's eyes regularly scan the ground in search of trash he can turn to treasure. Armed with a soldering iron and a blowtorch, he arranges the copper-toned cylinders into shapes of flowers, mountains, and faceless human beings. Theirs are the silhouette of the nameless millions who have died in wars across the Sahel.
All those who fall during the war, whether on the side of friends or enemies, what do we do with them? Behind these people who die, there are families, widows, orphans who spend their time crying, and this generates other hatreds. Today, we find child soldiers, street children, children in slavery in all camps. If only their parents had not died in the war, would these children still be forced in child labor? No.
Gwidambaye says his anti-war message is more relevant than ever. Since Chad's longtime ruler Idris Deby was killed in April when visiting troops fighting rebels, his son Mahamat Idris Deby has maintained a fragile peace. The French government has shown similar support for the artist, routinely showcasing his works at exhibitions at Chad's French Institute. One of his most vocal proponents is none other than Bertrand Koheri, France's ambassador to N'Djamena.
À la fois l'expression d'une transformation.
I would say that to transform something that wasn't supposed to be anything anymore, something that is also a symbol of conflict, and give it a new life, a new dimension. These are the things he is able to express through his works.
For Gwidambaye, his ideal audience is one that looks below the surface, who seek meaning in the materials he uses and draw a parallel with their own lives.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.